Mikhail could not take his eyes off the dead girl. He stood nearby, with his briefcase at the ready, watching the funeral procession. The desire to join flared up in him, but not out of pity for the dead woman and her relatives. Because of love. That's when he fell in love for the first time. "Everything will be fine with me," Mikhail said affectionately, sitting the girl on his lap. "It's okay, because this is the first time I made love." Every trip to the toilet turned out to be painful. The penis was already flaccid, turned gray, and had difficulty performing its actual function. His legs didn't obey him at all. Mikhail literally shuffled around the apartment, but the guy did not intend to give up. He took antibiotics and other pills, and did not want to admit that he had picked up something from the corpse. As long as he had the strength, he continued to make love to the dead girl, carry her in his arms, and take care of her. Meanwhile, the corpse itself was gradually rotting. Mikhail didn't care. Thoughts about that dead girl did not leave the guy's head. Mikhail, in classes, while walking, at home, thought about her every second. I even masturbated a couple of times, imagining the coldness of her crotch. Some 3 days passed. He became obsessed with the girl, literally thirsted. The desire to follow her was unbearable. A new cemetery has only recently opened. There are not many burials there. There were no special problems. You just need to choose the time when to steal your bride. Under the cover of night, the light of a flashlight and mysterious forces that helped Mikhail do his dark work, digging a corpse out of a grave, even during the day. I took the couples out to wander around the cemetery and find the right tombstone for the woman I loved. Her name was Elvira, the same age as Mikhail, 19 years old, and now she was lying in the ground. Studied, dreamed about something, was passionate about something. Now all this no longer has anything significant. Death takes without regret those who are on its list. Also, beauty is not able to stop such a terrible event. It's a pity that necromancy is just a fairy tale, because the guy really wanted to bring his beloved back to life so that she could live forever. In his father's old car, he calmly drove to the rented apartment and quietly brought the corpse into his apartment. He washed him, dressed him in home clothes, and settled him down on the sofa. Warm and affectionate words came from his lips all this time. It seemed to Mikhail that Elvira heard him. Perhaps a slight blush appeared on the cheeks, the lips slightly pulled into a smile. "I'll make some tea now." The guy's voice expressed all his love for his dead friend. Mikhail brings 2 cups of tea from the kitchen. Sipping a warm drink, he affectionately stroked Elvira's thighs, bestowed kisses on her neck, and gently touched her breasts. Putting down his cup, Mikhail hovered over the dead girl, continuing to kiss her neck. The second cup of tea was never touched. The next day there was an uproar. Local TV channels broadcast a report about the girl's angry grave. Mikhail followed the news, smiling triumphantly. Elvira sat her day obediently in a chair. Her lifeless gaze was also directed at the TV screen. "They made so much noise, didn't they?" Mikhail grinned, finishing his coffee. "They think they can't find us, whatever the case." Mikhail acted carefully. There should be no prints he was wearing gloves. Shoe marks he burned the evidence. Witnesses the old watchman was fast asleep in his room, and there was no one else. It was as if fate itself had arranged everything so smoothly for him, which made Mikhail proud. "So, I'm late for classes." There, the guy kisses his daughter-in-law on the cheek and leaves the hall. Now the dead woman was alone in the room, still looking blankly at the black TV screen. Silence reigned in the apartment. Only the distant screams of neighbors could be heard. Cars passing by were reflected in the windows. Passers-by walked back and forth. No one thought that in one of the houses, outside the windows of one apartment on the first floor, there was a dead girl, whose grave is now empty. Mikhail did not think about anything except Elvira during classes. He was in the clouds, practically not listening to what the teachers were saying. There was a moment when I walked into the wrong office without even noticing it. He didn't even notice his acquaintances. He just nodded to them and answered in monosyllables. He has no time for people's problems now. All his thoughts were occupied only with Elvira. "Darling, I'm home." The answer, of course, is silence the dead don't talk. The girl was still sitting near the TV. Mikhail walked into the hall and kissed the top of his beloved's head. "Did you miss me? I really missed you. There were quite a lot of couples today, so I don't have the strength to cook. On the way home, I bought some baked goods at a grocery store. This is such a simple dinner for you and me this evening." Silent means consent. Mikhail carried his beloved to the kitchen in his arms, warmed up the pies he had bought, and began to eat them with tea, telling him what had happened that day. Elvira listened silently, could not say anything, not even react. She looked at the guy with an empty gaze as he ate dinner and talked endlessly. Having finished his pies, Mikhail smiled softly, touching the hand of his dead daughter-in-law. "I love you." He kisses her tenderly on the lips, without demanding anything in return. Then he carefully picks her up and takes her to the bedroom, where he has passionate pleasures with the deceased. She did not resist, did not make unnecessary movements, and did not make any sounds. She lay there, completely surrendering to the power of Mikhail. It was fresh inside her. It was a little difficult to enter, but it was even more pleasant. He put a little pressure on the organ, squeezing, causing the guy to quickly pour out. Another approach, and another. Tired, he settled down next to her, tightly hugging her shoulders. He gave his virginity to a dead girl. In the morning, Mikhail felt indignant. There was an unpleasant sensation in the groin, which made it not particularly comfortable to walk. I had to ask for time off, but this is even better. After all, now the guy will spend more time with his beloved. Mikhail was absent from his studies for a long time. He didn't answer calls, didn't open the door. The disgusting smell of rotten meat came from his rented apartment. Mikhail could not get out of bed. His legs completely gave out. Nearby lay the already half-rotten corpse of his daughter-in-law. While the guy could still walk, he managed to buy a wedding dress and have a wedding at home. He also organized a festive dinner for two, but Elvira's share was then eaten by flies and cockroaches. I bought rings too, stood out on Elvira's bony finger. The dress was covered with dark spots. In some places there were holes from which maggots came out. The only food for Mikhail. He didn't want anyone to see him like this, next to his beloved. Outside the door they threatened with eviction. Police and everything else. There is another world out there, from which Mikhail left long ago. His world lay nearby all this time. His adored Elvira. He was still alive thanks to his love for her. If only I knew what the power of love is capable of. One fine day she came to life, the one who was dead all the time. And here she's a miracle that can only evoke love. Mikhail was fast asleep, so he did not notice how his dead wife got out of bed. She came close to the guy, bending slightly. The smell of rot made the guy wake up. He smiled softly, opening his eyes slightly, and said sleepily, "Good morning, my love. Are you up already?" Heavy, hoarse breathing served as the answer. Mikhail leaned towards her for a kiss, and he received it, posthumous, with a taste of iron in the mouth. The rotten corpse shuffled to the door and beat on the door with gentle pushes. One of the neighbors noticed this and decided to take the initiative to finally deal with the annoying tenant of the ill-fated apartment, thereby opening Pandora's box.